Hi, I'm here today with Mel Hillman. Mel started out in musical theatre and she's now teaching music and acting. So Mel, thank you very much for coming along today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start at the beginning. How did you get interested in musical theatre and in performing?
Well, I think like with most little girls, I started off with ballet and growing up in a country town, that was sort of all there was, and I loved it and I was very serious about it until I think when I was about 14 and realised that I wasn't going to be a ballerina. At the same time, I begged my parents desperately to give me singing lessons, so I then started doing more singing, and at year 12, I guess I decided that that's what I wanted to do, be on the stage, and I went and auditioned for a couple of music courses and luckily got in. So I started off being a dancer, then a singer, and not till a bit later when I'd started studying discovered musical theatre and thought, this is all the things that I love rolled into one. Yeah, so that's how I started, just accidentally moving forward.
What was the first musical theatre piece you saw?
I clearly remembered it was Cats. My mum was going to Sydney for work, and so I wagged a couple of days of school, and we just got, you know, they have house seats available, so we just got that, and I sat there and cried basically the whole time of joy. I just thought it was the most magical thing I'd ever seen. And afterwards I said to Mum, I need to be that little white cat, which I never was. But yeah, that was the first musical that I ever saw.
So is there musical theatre or any performance in your family?
Yes, well, on my dad's side, so his mum played the piano for church, and his dad was a singer and he sang at church. My dad is also a musician. He plays a lot of reed instruments, or he doesn't anymore, but he used to. And then on my mum's side, her mother, my grandmother, would have been an actress. She loved acting and did a lot of acting, but I think the Second World War got in the way for her to make that as her career, but she did teach speech and drama all her life and taught me, in fact. And yeah, she used to put on plays and radio shows and all that sort of stuff. She was a diplomat's wife, so she did it in Kuala Lumpur and goodness knows where else. She just would start up these community theatres and
wow.
Off she'd go.
What a great role model.
Oh, absolutely. She's a huge inspiration to me. A very strong woman, but also very soft and loving, but yes. And she was a very modern woman. She stayed modern all the way through her life, which I think is very admirable.
Indeed. Mm. So you got into a drama school straight out of high school, did you?
I didn't. I got into a music school. So I went to study classical singing, which is sort of funny because that's not really me. But at the time, again, growing up in a country town, I didn't really know much about anything. So I went and studied classical singing. And through that, thought I can actually study music theatre. So that's when I then went and auditioned, for a music theatre course.
And where did you audition?
I went to WAPA in WA, and I still say to this day that if I'd known how hard it was to get into, I wouldn't have got in. But I seriously went in there just going, well, why wouldn't you want me? I've done classical singing, I've done ballet for 13 years. This acting thing doesn't seem to be too hard. I'm a little bit older, great. And I got in, so that was nice.
Yeah, fantastic, yeah. What was the experience of WAPA like?
For me, it was sensational. I recognise it's not sensational for everyone, but for me, I loved living it every day. So starting at 8 or 9 in the morning and going till 6 every day, and then every 6 weeks you had a production week, so you'd put on some sort of production, and basically all you did was sing, act, dance. So for me, it was just extraordinary 3 years.
Mm. What was the difference between the acting track and the musical theatre track?
Well, the joke is that you can tell the music theatre people from the straight actors, as we used to call them, because the straight actors would be smoking in breaks and the music theatre people would just be running from one class to another, sculling their water bottles. But really, the main difference, I think, we tried to do as much acting as they did, but we also did singing and dancing. So our course was very, very full on. But the acting course was it was sensational, and they had some amazing teachers. But yeah, that would be the main difference. We did cross over every now and then and get some of their teachers or do some of their classes. And I was lucky in my last year to do their voice class every week, so that was nice.
You've said a couple of times that you came from a country town. What was the experience of coming from a country town and going to something in another state like Whopper?
For me, it was okay because I think where I grew up, there was just that expectation that if you go to uni, you'll leave. So it was very, very common. Everybody left who was going. And I moved to Canberra first, then I moved to Hobart, then I moved to Melbourne, and then I moved to Perth.
Right.
So by the time I was at Perth, I was an old hat at this. It is a long way away. But I think, I just think from quite a young age, there's an expectation, well, any university or anything like that you want to do, you'll go. So I don't really think I ever thought about it.
Okay, so you finished Whopper. What happened then?
Well, half my year got into Mamma Mia, the musical, and I was a bit devastated that I didn't because I got through a couple of rounds of auditions and then didn't get in, so that was a bit tragic. So I thought I was going to have a bit of a sad time, but then I was lucky enough, well, freakishly enough, to get into a touring show of Chorus Line.
Yeah, my favourite.
Yeah, a beautiful, beautiful musical. And I'd done Chorus Line at community theatre when I'd first moved to Perth just to meet people, and I'd played the role of Cassie. Yes, and so when I got into this production, I was given the understudy role of Cassie, which is quite funny because I'm not really built like a dancer, but just worked out that way. But then what was even better for me, not for her, was that the girl who's playing Cassie pulled out. So I got about 4.5 months of Cassie touring, yeah. And I slowly changed the choreography because she was very tall and thin and had a very flexible back, and I am none of those things. So I just slowly, over the time, just changed it around. But that was, I was really lucky to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, I got the role of Cinderella in Into the Woods. Oh. Yeah, and played that for about 9 months, I think, yeah. And that toured Hong Kong and Singapore and, yeah.
Wonderful. So what's the experience of touring for a long time?
Well, at first it's the best thing ever because you're on holiday with money. So, you have no responsibility and all this freedom and you're doing what you love. But it's as time goes on, you do start to go, I'm living out of a suitcase, I'm missing normality a little bit. And at the time I had a partner and a dog, and that was hard. And so when I did get to the end of that 9 months, I actually decided to retire from music theatre. I'm laughing because it sounds funny to do that, but I was actually at that point where I just thought I'd really like to just spend some time at home. So
and that's a kind of a common theme for actors anyway. If you're in a touring program, then you do have all of those things going on. It is part of the workplace, is that you are in an impermanent situation.
That's right. Yeah.
And it does put a lot of strain on relationships.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you were doing 8 shows a week for 9 months.
Yeah.
So tell us about what that experience is like.
I was fabulously fit.
I bet.
I think the difficulty in that is to try and find the new. And with touring groups, a lot of the time they're not really interested in you finding the new. They would just do the show. But I was really fortunate in both those tours to be cast with other people who also were looking to make an interesting process. But it does become a job, and you can lose your love for it. Someone said to me, as soon as someone starts giving you money for something, it stops becoming fun. I don't know if that's true, but it definitely, you do have to, you have to sort of pump yourself up a bit sometimes. because it does just feel like another job, another show. But you also have to remember that everyone's paid the same amount of money for the ticket and they want to come and see this show, and it's a beautiful, both those shows are beautiful stories.
Absolutely. Wonderful stories. Yeah. So how did you keep it fresh? What did you do to find the new?
Well, the correct things that we did, not the naughty things that we did, we would often go out afterwards as our characters. So we'd go out to dinner as our characters, and that was quite fun, just to create different the same relationships, but see, in different situations and stuff like that. I think it always helps when you have an understudy or people covering the role. One thing that I did was go and watch them rehearse, because that's one, it's like, oh God, someone could easily do my role, but also, oh, that's an interesting take on that. So we did things like that mainly.
And what were the naughty things?
Oh, the naughty things were just planting, pictures in books or props on stage, or changing blocking deliberately,
I think that you hear stories about that all the time. And while you're saying it's a naughty thing, in fact, it's a way of creating spontaneity.
Exactly right.
It's the only way I can think of that you can create that spontaneity.
And it's beautiful when it happens accidentally. When something goes wrong and you become this Bond desperately, oh my goodness, that whole thing is not on stage. Like Into the Woods, we're supposed to have this cow, Milky White, which is the bane of everyone's existence. And one night Milky White did not come on. And so we were just improving around, is it coming? Should we move on, or should we just, kill some time? Before they... And they are the moments, where there is sparks on stage, and there is this crazy joy of, look at us, like this could go terribly wrong at any moment, but this is great. Yeah, Milky White, wait. But there was some lovely things. And Milky White actually caused a lot of problems, but, that's a prop for you.
Yeah. Well, props will try and kill you at every opportunity.
Yes, and this is a cow that's supposed to eat hair, and, many, many things went wrong.
Okay, so we got you to the point where you really felt that you'd had enough of doing that. Because it sounds like you were doing that fairly full on for a couple of years. And you thought, okay, I'll have a bit of a break, I'll retire from doing this. What happened then?
I underestimated how that would affect me emotionally.
Taking the break?
Yeah, because I'm not saying I didn't need the break, but I think I didn't really realise that I didn't know what else to do with my life. I had been teaching singing. Even when I was at Whopper, I did that.
Okay.
So that was the obvious path to take, and I still do that now, and I do enjoy it, but it's a very different world. So I think emotionally I struggled a little bit, and feeling a little bit useless and lacking purpose. That sounds dramatic, but it wasn't dramatic. It was just a shift, I think, for me, and just to be living in the same place and with someone and, working out that sort of stuff. But I got a couple of jobs at schools teaching singing.
So did you have a dip ed or something along the way? Or?
I have got one now, but it took me a few years.
Okay.
I did it. I was working full-time and did my dip ed part-time over 2 years. That was a stupid time as well. But, that was a time. So I basically stopped performing for a while and, just thought I would build a life doing something else. My partner at the time was a musician, so he'd given up music as well, and he was doing his PhD in international relations. So I felt like it was probably my time to do the sensible earning money stuff. So I did that for a few years, and then I thought, I think I need some performing back in my life. But that was not as easy as it had been, because I'd been out of it and the world had passed me by. And music theatre is a young person's game in many ways, especially for a woman. and especially for the parts that I was playing. You know, I'm a soprano. I had that ingenue thing down, and I could no longer play those roles. But I don't have the big beefy voice to go into those sort of character roles. I'm working on that, but that's still not really how people see me. So it was a matter of me working out what I want to do. One of the things that I did get to do when teaching was to direct. So I directed a couple of school musicals, and I found that that is a great combination of my teaching and my experience. And I really enjoy doing that. And I would like to do more of that. Because I think that, as I said, it does combine the things that I like about teaching and the things that I like about acting. And I think I would, because I'm an actor, I come from the acting side of a director. So I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy discussing with actors and seeing things from the other side. And yeah, I've gone back to doing acting classes. And
Why? Why are you doing acting classes? What do you want to get out of that?
Because I want to get real good. And I think the day you stop learning is the day you stop living. And I think with any sort of art form, and I can't speak of other things like sciences and stuff, but in an art form, it is a constant development and a gathering of skills. There's no such thing as, oh, I've got that now, I can do that. And I also think when you're in classes, you are learning from other people, you're watching other people, and it's a really exciting place to be. It's also a really, well, it's a scary place to be, but there's a safety as well. And I think as I've got older, I'm getting braver to allow myself to fail and just to go, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'm in a class. And yeah, I hadn't studied for, I guess, a while, and it's really good. You know, you get your bad habits, you get stuck. And I wasn't getting any work, so I thought, well, and your confidence disappears. So doing classes theoretically can help that come back, I think. So that's why I do classes. Plus, it's just really fun.
I think you just said something fairly important around the fact that it's okay to fail in a class. And certainly for me, it's something that's taken a long time to let go of needing to do something right.
Yeah.
And being happy to fail. In fact, seeing that as really one of your goals, which is a hard thing to say.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important because that is the way that you really make the most of those opportunities.
It's so true. And I think when you're younger, you don't, well, I didn't. I should not speak for everyone, but I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And I think you're in a very competitive world, and it's always about the end product. Not so much at WAPA, or, well, I don't think I thought about it so much. But, you know, then you get out there and you want to get the job and you want to do the right thing. And all of a sudden, you know, yeah, you get to an age where you go, well, there is no such thing as the right thing. I'm just going to jump in there and it's probably going to be awful. But it's more about the experience than the product, yeah. And I think that's actually my big thing with my teaching, is that I desperately want my students to enjoy themselves. Because if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
And I lost the enjoyment of especially singing because it became a really technical thing. And so I stopped doing it. And actually, I think it was, and it's not a criticism of any of my past teachers, but again, they were very focused on, right, we've got to get this right, we've got to fix this technique, that doesn't, and I actually lost the joy of, yeah, but I'm singing, and I'm singing this beautiful song, and I'm singing these beautiful words, and I'm feeling these things. So I'm very passionate in, I don't lie, I don't say something good if it's not, but I just think it's really important for young people to know that it's good. This is good. You are good. This is enjoyable.
What are you working on now? What's next for you?
Well, I'm working on a play with this fantastic other actress that I know, which we are hoping to do in the Comedy Festival next year, which is way trickier than we thought. but it's fantastic. And I'm also involved in a group which is called AWE, AWE. So that stands for Arts Women Entertainment. It's a group of women. It's based in Melbourne. There is a similar group starting in Sydney as well, but not exactly the same. It's a group of women in arts, in the creative side of it. So less the performing, more directing, writing, choreography, production, design, who, and interestingly enough, we're all in our 40s and above, which is not even desirable. We're desperately, trying to attract the young crowd. But I think it's because you get to a stage in your life where you do hit the glass ceiling. And you realise, or in Chinese it's the bamboo ceiling, by the way. I love that. It's just as an aside. Where all of a sudden these amazing women are not getting work. Yeah. And they're seeing younger and less experienced men pass them by. And it's by no means a feminist group or anything like that. It's actually, and it's not a group that wants to just get around and mope and complain. One of the girls in the group has put it beautifully where she said, I just want to build our own church so that we can go to our own church and worship at it. And that's what it's about. It's actually about assisting other females to do what they do, to tell women's stories, to know how to do that, to know how to go about that, and to give them a place where they can do it, connections with other women and a support network.
So how are they going to go about doing that?
Well, we've got a conference on the 11th of November at Chapel Off Chapel, where we will have certain speakers and panels, discussions where, we invite people to come along and to listen to this and to contribute, obviously, and get ideas and to start building our church, basically. This is the first thing we've done, so, hopefully we'll build from there. We've got already a couple of great authors on board. We've got Patricia Cornelius and Hanny Rayson, which is very exciting. We've got some academics coming who are not necessarily artists per se, but will speak to us about certain things. We have business women. When we're not after a survivor's feeling of, I made it, that we're actually just after just supporting each other and being really caring. And we're also not man-bashing because that's a ridiculous thing to do. It's actually just about, okay, well, how can we address this in a really healthy way, and how can we support women of all ages to tell our stories?
And there's room for everybody. It doesn't have to be men or women. There's opportunities for both if we can create them.
Exactly. A word that keeps flying about is parity, and why it is the way it is. And we definitely don't want to assume or say that women are better or worse. It's simply like, well, how can we change it so that women do feel more comfortable, or there's opportunities, without being segregated or anything like that. So that's, and I'm very excited about that because I think it's the time. And it's amazing speaking to other women they're excited about, and actually other men. A lot of other actors and directors who are male are also saying, well, yeah, it is time. We want to support that too. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mel. I think this has been a really great conversation and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. I've been speaking to Mel Hillman, who has done lots of different things in her career in terms of in front of the camera, on the stage, but also in the classroom.